Hey y'all, welcome to my channel, Divinely Transformed. Whether you're new or returning, I'm glad that you're here. So, the other day, I was told I needed to do this video, and I think I put it off for 3 days. Just because I was working, doing my other job, and I wanted to make sure that when I did this video, it was like fresh. This is another video of introducing myself. The other video was introducing myself in the 3D, which there were some things that I forgot and left out. Didn't mean to. I mean, how can you sum up your life in 45 minutes? It's hard to do, especially with as much stuff that's happened to me. You kind of can't put that in a 40-minute window very well. So I was led to give a scripture to introduce myself, which this is something I won't be doing regularly. But the scripture is, "For with God nothing is impossible." Luke 1:37. And the only reason I bring it up is because this is basically the theme of my life, the reason for this channel, and it's me. You know, I lived my life thinking that everything was impossible. I did. I thought that I couldn't do anything, and nothing that I ever did was right. But I was always on the path and didn't know it. So this is how I introduce myself, because this is what I say. You might not be able to do things on your own. You might not be able to do anything that really amounts to much on your own. But when you have the unconditional love of God within you, nothing is impossible. Nothing. I've made some achievements in those last 2 years that I never even knew that I didn't even know that I could read tarot. I didn't know that I could do it. I didn't know that I wanted to do it. I got into it for purely selfish reasons. And the only reason why I started learning is because I was poor and I couldn't afford to go to readers. Yeah. So that's how I learned tarot. Because I wanted to know all about my life and what was wrong and what I needed to do. And I never got any answers that way, but the answer that I did get was, "All right, Lisa, you've been learning tarot long enough. You know enough about it. Start your own channel." And I was like, "What?" You heard me. And right before that, God was telling me to always trust Him to supply all of my needs and to never worry. And I promised Him that I wouldn't. And I've done my absolute best since then to reject all of those negative, worrisome thoughts and words that I sometimes would say in my life about, I don't know where my next whatever is coming from. It doesn't matter where my next whatever is coming from. I never have to worry about anything. All of my needs are provided for. My needs. And I don't really want for much, you know. I live pretty comfortably on a low budget for right now, and knowing that I'm not always going to be there on a low budget, I'm all right with that, because I know that I'm highly favored and protected by the Most High God. And that is not arrogance. That's pure confidence. It's exactly what he wants me to have. Pure confidence. So, let's get to the things that I forgot. And things that I've been enlightened on since my last video of my personal journey. So, I forgot to tell you that I'm not an only child. I do have siblings. I have a bunch of them, and I never mentioned them. There's reasons for that, but it's not for reasons that anybody may expect. One, I was trying to respect my family's privacy. And two, at the time of the video, I wasn't especially close to any of them. But since then, I've gotten closer with my oldest brother. I mean, I have contact with my other brothers too, but you know, that firm family bond, it's really not there, because they're really just that much younger than me. And they're living their lives too. And they live in other states. Except for my oldest brother, who lives in the same state, whom I've just recently connected with. And we really healed each other's lives, points of views, and everything, just one conversation over the phone. It was a freeing experience. But during this phone conversation, I realized at the time of making the last video that my perception was still a bit skewed whenever I said that I felt like I grew up in a family of mean people. And yes, it's still a perception, but it wasn't exactly completely true. And I didn't know it because I was still a bit skewed in my perception. And the reason I say that is because, unbeknownst to me, the whole entire time of the course of mine and my oldest brother's life, I mean, I'm the oldest, but he's the second oldest. We both felt the same exact way. We both felt like we grew up in a family of mean people. And we both felt like we were reacting to each other all the time. Which I didn't know that, because I really felt like I was just always reacting to him and everybody else. So we mirrored each other, had the same experience, and neither one of us were aware of that. We just handled it differently. I went and I did some things that I wasn't proud of to my brother, but it was my way of dealing with things, and it was wrong, but I don't regret it happening, because it was a great learning experience for both of us, and it brought us to the point that we're at now. So I'm happy and thrilled about that. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that real quick. And I wanted to introduce myself spiritually. The reason I had such a difficult and traumatic upbringing, which I just recently found out, is that when you're an earth angel, as I am, and yes, that sounds silly, but there are people in this world that we're not completely human. We have other DNA mixed in with our human DNA. And my DNA happens to be mixed with angel. Angels came to heaven, or came down to earth from heaven, and they started making babies here. It was to fulfill a bigger plan so that earth angels can fight battles on earth. And our current battle on earth right now is just to stay in the highest vibrations, stay in the light, and fight for what's right. That's it. But anyhow, the archangel that's in charge of me is Archangel Raphael. He's in charge of the fourth chakra, which is the heart chakra. Unconditional love. That's my superpower. Used to be my weakness, but now it's my superpower. But, so angel DNA and human DNA, it's not very stable together. It doesn't agree very well in a vessel until the human side decides to cooperate and surrender to the higher self, the angel self. And believe me, that is one fucking tough choice to make. And for many, myself included, that was a choice that was kind of forced on me. You know, destiny kind of does that. In the sense that I did what I wanted to do, and then I got loaded up with all this karma and restrictions to the point where I was in stagnation for so many years. And I literally couldn't move. I was like trapped in a fucking corner spiritually. And then it became a physical problem. Like I really thought that I was going to be in a wheelchair and I was going to die, and yeah. So then I was just like, I fucking give up. I can't do this shit no more. I either want to die or do it your way. And I'd rather try to do it the right way before I do die. So that was my surrender. I wanted to use the tools that I had been given to change my life instead of making my life a living nightmare. Because I was hell-bent on destroying my life. Fuck. My first MySpace name was Tailor Made for Destruction. Like, that was my goal, was to destroy my life. But part of me just wanted to live my happy little life and be free. But my life was never happy and my life was never free until I surrendered. There's so much freedom in that surrender. You would think that it causes you to feel trapped, but no, it's quite the opposite. When you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, you feel more than free. You feel relieved. You feel happy. You feel content. And for a little while, you feel over the moon with joy. And now, it's our job, when we do this, that we keep that, right? Well, jumping up and down into vibrations, it happens because we're human. We go up and down. But when we go down, we don't stay there. That's the important part. What comes up must go down, and what goes down comes back up again. As above, so below. Oh yeah. So, just because you might be in high vibes one week, you might have a bad couple days. Just nurture yourself. It's part of the human experience. But don't stay there. Get yourself back up. It's not about getting up high and staying up high. You can't really do that because it's like an elevator. You go up and down. So, so Archangel Raphael is in charge of me. He's basically my angel daddy, as I call him. I don't really have like a earthly dad, so I basically just have God as my main daddy and Raphael as my angel daddy. And it feels so nice to be divinely protected, to have angels all around you, protecting you, loving you, giving you information, letting you know when you're in danger, letting you know what you can do to protect yourself too, because it's not just them protecting you, it's them teaching you how to protect yourself. And then they do the rest. It's our personal responsibility to do what we can do to protect ourselves once we know. And I'll have a whole other video on how we can protect ourselves spiritually. But that's who I am. And I'm proud of who I am. And I'm not going to hide it anymore. I'm a divine medium channeler. I do use tarot cards to help people find their blockages and find out what they can do to change their lives. That's what I do. I'm very effective as well. But see, don't make this mistake of thinking that I can save you, because all I'm doing is giving you the information so that you can protect and save yourself. I'm just a person with angel DNA. Doesn't mean that I can pop over to where you are, wave a magic wand and say, hey, everything's all fixed. No, it doesn't work that way. We're supposed to be doing some of the work on our end while they do their work on their end. Because lots of Christians, I grew up as a Christian, and lots of Christians just have this distorted idea that God is just going to magically save them from their financial problems with other people. While they do their spiritual work with your prayers, they can't do a whole lot without stuff on your end being done. And if all you're doing is praying and praying and praying and not listening to the still small voice within, which is your intuition, your guidance, then your life just stays stuck. Your heart's in the right place, but there's no personal responsibility there's no actual work being done on the person's end to change things when they're just waiting on God to just poof, magically change the situation without any effort from the person themselves. That's just not reality. Because I lived most of my life in despair because I prayed and prayed and prayed and nothing got better, it only got worse, and I didn't understand. I wandered around in the desert for 40 years. No joke. In the desert of loneliness, in the desert of feeling separated from God, feeling like, what did I do to deserve all of this shit that I got? When I tried to do things to make my life better, it went down the shitter. Because I didn't understand. I didn't understand that I was supposed to ask for guidance before I make decisions. I didn't understand that there were things that I needed to do to protect myself. Things I needed to do in order to make shit work for myself. I didn't get it. So now that I get it, I'm sharing this with y'all. The dream versus the reality. The reality is everything is hard work. And when you're being lazy and you ain't doing shit, you ain't going nowhere but down and getting stuck and trapped in a corner. I can tell you this from personal experience. And when you're down, when you're sinking further and further down, and you're being trapped in that corner and you can't move, it's the scariest fucking thing in the world. That's when everything's so bad that your health is declining. Physically, mentally, emotionally. You're just a fucking train wreck. So, I want y'all to be avoided of all of that by getting the reality versus the distorted vision, I guess. How it really works. And you don't even necessarily have to click with Christianity either. It's however you connect to divinity. Even if all that you do to connect to divinity is in nature, being out in the forest and just communing with nature and enjoying yourself and the peace and quiet and the stillness, and you're feeding your soul that way, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a Muslim and you're practicing your faith and goodness and purity, but you're not like infringing on anyone else's free will or anything like that, then so be it. It doesn't matter how you connect to the divine at all. Just connect to it and be one with it. And understand that doing the work now is better than having to suffer for it later. And it's not the kind of work that we do on a day-to-day basis. It's like self-work. It's working on our emotions, working on looking to see the bad side of ourselves and learning to understand why it's there, to accept that part of ourselves, to know that sometimes we have to use that part of ourselves to protect ourselves. right? But our goal is to protect ourselves in peaceful, nonviolent ways. But if we're met with violence, we meet back with the same violence. We're not called to be meek and mild. We're called to stand up and speak our truth, even if it creates friction and conflict. But we're still to weather the storm and stand our ground and remain peaceful in our truth, in our authenticity. And that is our true authority. I'm going to leave this video here. It's long enough. But thank you for listening. I appreciate all your support so very much. And I'll talk to y'all soon.